I really want the whole world to hear the truth and nothing but the truth. That's what you're going to learn tonight. So please love, like, make the algorithm take notice of this class tonight so that it can reach the most people. Get your pens, your pencils, your paper. Get it all ready tonight, because tonight is a master class. We're going to talk about the land of Israel, the state of Israel. 2,000 years of history we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about prophetic destiny of the land of Israel. We're going to talk about Zionism. You hear it everywhere now. Anyone that supports the democracy of the state of Israel, we have a new name, and it's called Zionist. I'm going to teach you about all of that tonight so plainly to where no one will be able to mess with your mind ever again. If you do not have our app, you can download it on Play Store or Apple. It's called First Harvest Ministries. Just look for First Harvest Ministries. Find us on Roku, First Harvest Ministries. Download us. Stay in touch with us. All right. All over the internet today, everywhere that you look, on social media, in college classrooms, in YouTube comment sections, and even in the halls of our own government, sadly, one message is echoing louder today than it's ever echoed before, even during the time of Adolf Hitler and his pogroms. And here's what you're hearing everywhere. Israel is a thief. Israel is a bully. Zionism is racism. Israel stole the land from the Palestinian people. Israel has done ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people. Israel is an occupier. Israel is a colonizer. Israel is illegitimate. And let's be honest, you've heard it so much in the past few years. Now you hear it from our own leaders, such as Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, various voices that have influence, that perhaps they've made you even say, maybe I should take a second look. There's nothing wrong with taking a second look as long as you know where to look. And tonight I'm going to show you where to look. Is there any truth to these accusations? It is time to answer that question tonight. And listen, I have done my research. I'm a Christian, just like you did. And sure, we were taught support Israel. If you bless Israel, God will bless you. We were taught all that. So I did have that paradigm in my mind all my life. So when I began to hear these accusations against Israel, of course, being a truth seeker, I wondered, should I reconsider my stand for the state of Israel? Before I start tonight, there is a vast difference in the house of Israel and the state of Israel. You need to know that up front. Now, if that's confusing to you, I invite you to watch my 30-minute teaching called The Scattered Seed. You can find The Scattered Seed on my YouTube channel, my Rumble channel. You can find it on my app. You can find it on Roku, or fhtv.tv. Just go to the search bar and type The Scattered Seed by Shane Vaughn. And that 30 minutes will explain what I mean when I say the house of Israel is not the state of Israel. We want all of our haters to know tonight that we understand that. We grasp that the people in the land of Israel today are not believers. We comprehend that they are not the quote unquote true Israel of God. We get that. We have no argument with you there. We understand that the people that live there today are probably as far away from God as anybody on the planet. We get that. But we also get some other things that we think you don't get. We know the difference in an Israelite and a Jew. And today, the people in the so-called state of Israel are not the whole house of Israel. They are the Jewish people. And half of them is probably not even Jewish. That's okay. We understand they're Ashkenazi Jews. We understand all of that. You don't have anything to trip us up with. We're well aware of your arguments. So, in my own mind, I said to myself, I want to know the truth about the state of Israel. And I did my research because I challenge anyone. Don't believe what you grew up hearing. Search it out. So tonight we've got to answer the question, are any of these accusations against the state of Israel, are they true? Could it be possible that the modern state of Israel is built on stolen soil? And are they guilty of ethnic cleansing with the Arab people? Tonight, we're going to find out. But we're not going to find out from Twitter or from TikTok videos, nor from slogans or from screaming. But we're going to find out from documents, from history, from the Bible, the world's best-selling book, from war treaties, from maps, and from the very same evidence that international courts use to determine legitimacy. Tonight is not just about defending the state of Israel. It's about defending the truth. Because if we let lies grow unchallenged, if we let them permeate the inner space of the internet, if we allow these voices to be so loud and they grow unchallenged, then we've surrendered to the battlefield of the mind. When we do not speak the truth to the loudness of the lies, then we surrender to the battlefield of the mind. And conservatives such as myself and yourself, it is our very nature not to be obnoxious. You're not going to see us out on a picket line or a protest line throwing stuff and screaming. You're going to find us, our nature is to leave good enough alone. The other side takes advantage of that. They get loud, and we sit there and go, my God, they're loud. Someone has to be a clear voice in the world of lies. And I believe that's why God, Yahweh, has made me come to this microphone tonight, because trust me, it's the last place I want to be. It's my night off, and I did not ask for this assignment. But this war about Israel and Zionism is not being fought with weapons. It is being fought with words. You're about to discover that every empire that ruled the land of Israel, and there have been many. Our class is starting right now, all right? Every empire that's ruled that little piece of land that's the center of the world, every one of them that's taken possession of it has lost possession of that land the same way. It's a repeating cycle. They win it through war, and they've lost it by surrendering in a war. That's paramount, what I just told you. You need to understand the way the world works. There are two worlds. There's the world you want to live in, which is a world of no wars, no surrendering, no losing land, no losing homes. That's the world we will live in one day when Yeshua sets his kingdom up on earth. That's the world we want to live in. But then there's another world, the world we do live in. In that war, there is a slogan that carries great weight. To the victor goes the spoils. And in the land of Israel, that has been true over and over and over again. We're going to find out that there has been international treaties, and Israel today, their right to that land is no less valid than Rome when they had a right to that land, or the Ottomans, or the British. You're going to find out that the state of Israel today acquired their land the same way Rome did, the same way the Ottoman Empire did, the same way that Great Britain did. You're also tonight going to learn about a document that's all over TikTok, all over the interweb, called the Elders of Zion, or the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. If you've not heard of it, just be thankful. That means you've not gone down the rabbit hole far enough. You'll learn tonight about Zionism and the Rothschilds. Trust me, I know you've heard about it, the Rothschilds. You're going to find out tonight all of these things. So buckle up, get your Bible, get your brain, leave your emotions outside tonight, get your boldness, because the truth I'm about to teach you is going to knock down some very loud lies. I'm Pastor Shane Vaughn, also known as Professor Toto. That is my satirical stage name. And this tonight is a masterclass. To understand the modern accusations about the land of Israel, we have to start somewhere. We have to start not with the hyped up emotions, but the cold, hard facts. The cold historical record of who ruled this land over the past 2,000 years. To do that, we're not going to do like the TikTokers do. We're not going to start at 1948. You know, when the Rothschilds stole the land. We're not going to start there. No. We're going to go way back, way back. We're going to go to a time when the children of Israel had owned the land since the days of coming out of Egypt. And then when they came across the Jordan River and God gave them the land. One day you'll have to realize, my friend, this planet doesn't belong to you or me. It belongs to the Creator. And guess what? He's the ultimate landlord, and he can give his land to whomsoever he desires without my permission or your permission. It doesn't even have to look fair to you and I. We are nobody. We are ants. We are peons in the panoply of his plans. And he said to the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Israel, this is your land. I give it to you by a perpetual covenant. Now, anyone that argues with that promise, they're arguing with futility. There's no argument against that covenant. I'm going to show you later tonight where that covenant is prophesied again in Ezekiel. It's prophesied all through the prophets that the day would come when the descendants of Jacob would come back to the land. That's so very important for you to understand tonight, okay? Now, where we want to start our story is not where the children of Israel were given the land. I want to go to a point in the story where the house of Judah and the house of Israel separated during the days of Jeroboam and Rehoboam, the kings of Israel, the king of Judah, the king of Israel. From that day forward, millions of Israelites disappeared from the pages of history. If you want to know where they went, go watch my series called Tracking the Tribes, 17-part series. Get ready, okay? You'll forever be changed when you watch it. However, in the land that we now call Israel, that's not really the land of Israel. It was known from that day forward as the land of Judah. Very important that you know the difference. That piece of land that they're fighting over even today is the land not of Israel. It's a shame that it was named Israel. And it was not supposed to be named Israel. I'll show you that later in the lesson tonight. It should have been named the state of Judah, because truly that is the Jewish people. That is where they lived after Israel disappeared. Millions of their brethren vanished and went in across the Caucasus Mountains, all throughout till they wound up in America. But the Jewish people stayed in the land where the temple was, right there in Jerusalem, until AD 70. In AD 70, Jerusalem, the land of Judah, had been under the empire of the Roman Caesar. It was allowed to be independent. They were allowed to worship. They were allowed to be Jewish. However, they had to acclimate to Rome. They had to be obedient to Rome. They could still be Jerusalem, but they had to be obedient to Rome. Well, in the year AD 70, there was an uprising of the Jewish people against Rome. And Titus Caesar had enough. He was done with it. He goes to Jerusalem, destroys everything. He destroys their temple. He destroys the whole city. And then he takes the vast majority of the Jewish people, the tribe of Judah, living in the land of Judah. At that time, that land was known as Provincia Judea, meaning the province of Judah. Well, they left a few Jewish people in Jerusalem after AD 70. About 70 years later, there was another uprising in Jerusalem. by a small group of Jewish people, and they came up and had a revolt against Rome yet again. That was in 135 AD. In 135 AD, Emperor Hadrian said, you know what? We're done. Enough is enough. It wasn't enough to destroy Jerusalem, to destroy your temple. Now we take your identity away. In 135 CE, in the Christian era, the name Provincia Judea was eradicated and replaced with the name Syria Palestinia. And from that day to this day, the whole world has come to believe that the word Palestinia is the name of that land. Rome named that land Palestine to erase every tie of the Jewish people to Provincia Judea. That was the purpose, to sever the soul ties and to get rid of them. That uprising was called Bar Kokhba, the revolt. And then from that day forward, Jews were banned from Jerusalem. So until 135 AD, for however many years, that was 1,000, 2,000 years, this land was the land of Judah, the Jewish people. And you must understand this, because if you don't, you will believe that that land is the land of Palestine. But nothing could be further from the truth. It was renamed that. It's just like we rename men into women, but that doesn't make it so, does it? The truth still remains in spite of the deception. Well, after 135 AD, Jerusalem and the land of Provincia Judea was taken over by Christianity. That period of time was known as the Byzantine Empire. Basically, the Catholic Church ruled the world, and the Byzantine Empire was known as the Christian Empire, and they became dominant. And now because of the Roman, remember when Rome died, everything was handed to the successor of Rome, which is the Roman Catholic Church. And this is under Constantine. And Constantine ruled from a city called Constantinople. Constantinople was the headquarters of Christianity. For decades, for generations, Constantinople was known as the headquarters of Christianity. Now, Christianity was dominant until the year 636 after Christ died. So 636 years later, suddenly the Byzantine Empire is defeated. They are destroyed by the Arab caliphates, the Islamic caliphates. It is during this time that the Dome of the Rock and that all the Arab influence came into the land. This is when the Arab people took the land by what? By conquest, by war. They defeated the Christians. Now, when the Christians were defeated, they were allowed to stay there in the land as second-class citizens. And some of the Jewish people were allowed to stay there as second class citizens, but they were citizens of the new empire. Now, this new empire, nobody could scream that the Arabs stole the land from the Christians because they did not steal it. They fought for it, and the Christians could not defend it. And in the real world, where real people live, that's called conquest. That's called victory. And to the victor goes the spoil. This Arab Islamic Caliphate lasted from 636 to 1099, and they renamed that area Jund Philistine. Now listen to that name. This tells you that this was the Philistines from the Old Testament. This land, Palestine, the reason that the emperor named it Syria Palestinia was to mock the Jewish people that had defeated the Philistines to conquer the promised land. Remember, originally it was the Philistines. That was their land until Israel did what? Defeated them and took the land. And then whenever Rome wanted to stab them in the back, they named it Philistine land. And now the Arab Islamic caliphates, they seal it. The Muslim armies conquer the land under the ruler by the name of Caliph Umar, and it become part of Jund Philistine. Now, something interesting happened. Right at 1099, guess who returns? The Christians, the Crusaders from the Catholic Church. And what do? They have war with the Arabs, the Muslims. Those Arab caliphates that were in control lost control to Christianity, the Crusaders. Nobody screamed, the Crusaders stole the land from the Muslims. No, the Crusaders beat the Muslims, and therefore to the victor goes the spoil. Now, the Christians from Europe took Jerusalem in a bloody conquest from 1099 to 1187. A long time the Christians ruled Jerusalem. Right after the Christians ruled it, there was another war with a group of people called the Ayyubids. The Ayyubids were led by a man by the name of Saladin, and they were Muslim. They defeated the Christians. And what happened? The Christians had to surrender. And rightful legal ownership is transferred to the victor. Well, they ruled for about 100 years till 1291. And there was another group of people from Egypt called the Mamluks. They came in 1291 and they defeated the Ayyubids. And suddenly, no one is screaming that the Mamluks stole the land from the Ayyubids. No, the Mamluks defeated the Ayyubids, and they ruled that land from Egypt for nearly 300 years with Islamic control. So the Arabs and the Palestinians, when they scream that they have a long history here, they do. They are telling the truth. From the day that the land was renamed forward, there is strong connection to the Arab Palestinian people. No one denies that. We completely understand that. After the Mamluks took over, suddenly there is another war in 1516. And this war comes from the Ottoman Empire. And they ruled for nearly 400 years. Islamic Ottoman Empire. Now, I want to show you how large the Ottoman Empire was. If you'll look on the map, you'll see the Ottoman Empire was a huge empire. That's why I'm so shocked when people are teaching the book of Daniel and they get to the statue of the world empires. Nobody mentions the Ottoman Empire. But we do at First Harvest Ministries. We know that the Ottoman Empire is the feet on the statue of Daniel. I know you never heard that before, but that's who they are, because this empire ruled. And you'll see Jerusalem, if you look at the map there, Jerusalem was part of the Ottoman Empire. I mean, look, from Iraq to Syria, Egypt, all the way over to Italy, all the way just everywhere through the Black Sea to Romania, up to Austria. The Ottoman Empire was huge. They were the empire of the day, and they ruled Jerusalem for nearly 400 years. They built the Dome of the Rock. Now, here's where our story starts getting very interesting. Something you need to zoom in on now and pay close attention. In 1858, now how long did the Ottomans rule? To 1917. That's bringing us up to not our lifetime, but the era that we can sort of start identifying with, because we're right at the beginning of World War I with the Allied powers. We're going to talk about that in just a second. But right before 1917, remember that their rule ended in 1917, but really something started happening in 1858. So what, about 60 years earlier? You need to know how big the Ottoman Empire was. You need to know that Jerusalem was ruled by it for 400 years. You need to know that the Dome of the Rock that you see sitting on the Temple Mount was built during this time. 1858. The Ottoman Empire, that was so large, began to allow Jewish people to buy land in Jerusalem, in the Ottoman Empire. How did it happen? In the Ottoman Empire, the people that owned the land, they did not live in Jerusalem. They were very wealthy people that lived all across the Ottoman Empire, and they would buy land in Jerusalem and then sell it to the highest bidder. Well, and by the way, this is how every great empire falls. They allow immigrants to come in and buy up all the land. Well, this is the same thing that happened to the Ottoman Empire that brought its destruction. Was it began to allow the purchase of land in 1858. Now remember, the empire lasted how long? Until when? 1917. Immigration began to destroy the Ottoman Empire because something happened just before then. I'm going to get it up here for you. Something happened just before 1858. There was something called the pogroms against the Jewish people. Let me tell you what a pogrom is. It is when the government sanctions rioting and mistreatment of an ethnic group of people. Violent mobs begin to attack the Jewish communities in the Russian Empire, and the Russian government sanctioned it. They turned their head. And then in 1903, now watch your timeline carefully. Remember, the Ottoman Empire lasted to 1917, and this is known as the first Aliyah. This is when the first wave of Jewish people began to make their way back to what's now known as Palestine. And the reason they did it the first time, now when this happened, there was no Zionism, there was no Rothschild. This truly was people fleeing from persecution, and the Jewish people realized they could never safely assimilate among the nations. They had tried. They had traveled everywhere, and they would live there for a while, and then pogroms would begin. You can study about these pogroms. Don't take my word for it. Study about the Kishinev pogrom in 1903. 1905, the Odessa pogroms. 1919, Ukraine and Poland. And then 1938, Nazi Germany. But what I want you to notice is that first one in 1881, the Russian Empire. Now let's keep these dates together. The Ottoman Empire is going to fall around this time period. And the first wave come into Jerusalem, 1882 to 1903. Why? Because look at your dates. The Russian Empire, the pogroms against the Jewish people, they were running for their lives. They were leaving, and the only place they knew to go back to, was their homeland, Zion. Now, the word Zion is a beloved word in the house of Israel. Mount Zion is a euphemism for the city of David. It is a euphemism for the coming kingdom of God, the messianic age. So all believers long for Mount Zion. It is in the hearts of all of Yahweh's people. So these people came to the land in these time periods. That's called the first Aliyah. And it's very important that we understand. After the first Aliyah, after the first regathering, then something happened. And this is where all of the Zionism, all of the talk about Rothschild, this is where it all comes in. Because after that first pogrom, those first wave of people come in, they did not have money to buy the land in Jerusalem. They needed help from their Jewish brethren around the world. That's when a Congress was called in 1897. Now notice the first pogroms was 1884, right? They've all gone to Jerusalem. They have no money. So in 1897 in Switzerland is the first Zionist Congress. Now I want to stop and tell you Zionism is a beautiful word. Our hearts long for Zion. But these people were not longing for Zion in a spiritual sense. They were ready to start a political party. And they, at this Congress, was the formal launching of political Zionism. Now, me and you, we have religious Zionism. We long for the city of God. But this Congress, they really couldn't care less, if you will, about the spiritual aspect of it. They wanted a political movement because they were being attacked all over the world in these pogroms, and they'd come to realize no matter where they settled, they would never be at home. So they called a meeting for the reestablishment of the Jewish homeland in the land of Israel. Here's what they were going to do. They were not going to take over Palestine. They were just going to go and live under the Ottoman Empire, just like they lived under the Roman Empire, and just start buying land. Now, the Ottoman Empire made their mistake way back here, because the Ottoman Empire in 1858 started letting immigrants, Jewish people, buy the land. Well, the Jewish people had a lot of money. And indeed, they began to buy the land in what's known as the second Aliyah, which was the second wave of people coming into Jerusalem and buying up the land. But these are not spiritual Jews. These are secular Jews, and they just wanted a political movement. They were known as Zionists, and this was all before World War I. And my question to you tonight is, who could blame them for wanting to go to a central place and live together as the Jewish people? Who could blame them for that desire to go home? Because they were welcome. The Ottoman Empire invited them to come. They allowed them to buy the land. They did not come in and steal the land. They bought it. And this is what that looked like. Look how much land the Jewish people, by these dots, this is Jewish land purchases in Palestine. They were going in with no promise that this would ever be their land. They were going to be good citizens in the Ottoman Empire and just buy the land according to the law. The law of the Ottoman Empire said they could buy whatever land they wanted to buy. Now, that brings us to another interesting part of this story. The Zionist Congress that I just showed you was a political gathering. It was not a Masonic meeting of a secret cabal. It was a public cry of persecuted people to return home and buy their way in. Now, that brings us to the man, Baron Rothschild. I know, the devil himself. If you watch a TikTok video, he was the Antichrist incarnate. But no, Baron Rothschild, of course, I'm sure he wasn't a perfect man, but he was a benefactor of that first wave of Jewish people. He gave the money to buy the land. The land was not taken by force. The land was bought. The land was tilled. It was watered with sweat and blood. And Rothschild was the money that helped them buy the land. Of course, he had political motives. Of course, he did. But that first Zionist Congress was not a cabal. It was a public outcry. And this is, before I show you about Rothschild, let me show you the man that started it all. The man that started it all was not Rothschild. It was Theodore Herzl. That's who organized the first Zionist Congress. He was an Austrian Jew. He was a political thinker, and he had just written a book. It's amazing. It always starts with a book. The Declaration of Independence, the way we got free from Great Britain, was a book by Thomas Paine called Common Sense, a little book that opened their mind. Well, this man, Theodore, had just written a book. And what was the name of that book? Remember, I told you earlier, originally it was going to be called The Jewish State. That was the name of the book in 1896. Look it up. He wrote a book about the Jewish state. He put a hunger in the hearts of people. That's why I write so many books. I pray that somebody will pick it up. It'll put a hunger in their heart, open their mind. That's what he wrote. And he called for a sovereign Jewish homeland because of anti-Semitism that was in Austria and all throughout Europe. Well, there was another man who didn't even have anything to do with the Zion Congress, but he gets the blame for it, and it was Rothschild. Let me tell you what Rothschild actually did. He legally bought the land from Arab landlords. God gave the man the money to buy the land. And then he created agricultural experts that would train these Jewish settlers how to work the land. Then he built wineries, farms, and schools. And he called for a practical settlement instead of diplomatic activism. He wanted nothing to do with Zionism, the political party. He just wanted there to be a practical settlement. So let's answer the question, did he control the Zionist movement? He was never a member of the World Zionist Organization, the WZO. He was never a member, ever. And yet he's the one that created Zionism. As a matter of fact, Rothschild criticized Herzl, the man that wrote the book, and Zionism, fearing that it would stir up too much opposition too quickly. He didn't believe they should do it politically. They should just settle the land and build the land. So the whole concept that Rothschild created Zionism is simply there's no historical evidence whatsoever. And the key point that we need to remember tonight, this was no secret meeting, this first Zion Congress. It was public, it was diplomatic, it was legal, it was peaceful. It was not Rothschild's plan. It was not a Masonic ritual or a globalist plot. There was no devil worship, no sexual orgies, all the things that we've heard about Zionism. Now, there's another lie that I want to deal with tonight. The protocols of the elders of Zion. TikTok loves this one. The only problem is it was proven to be a forgery. Supposedly in this book found in Russia, all the elders of Zionism had gotten together, how they were going to take over the world, how they were going to do this and do that, take over everything. Russia did that so that they could blame the Jews for their failures. And in 1921, the London Times exposed this as a forgery. The U.S. Library of Congress and all historians recognize it as fake forgery. The Protocols of the Elders of Zion is history's most successful forgery. It's fueled pogroms. It's helped launch the Holocaust. And it still infects minds today. but it's not the truth. It's a lie printed in hate and baptized in blood. And yet every influencer I know of believes it hook, line, and sinker. Every one of them believes it. Let's read what actually happened at the first Zion Congress, okay? It was attended by 200 delegates from 17 countries. They created the WZO. They adopted the Basel program. Said Zionism seeks to establish a home, God forbid, for the Jewish people in Palestine under public law. Here's what they said. We want a settlement back home submitting to the Ottoman Empire. They called for promoting a Jewish settlement, that's it, in Palestine. Organizing Jews into national groups, strengthening Jewish identity, and seeking legal guarantees for the Jewish people. What a horrible thing for them to want to do for their people. Now, let's move along. In these anti-Semitic programs in the Russian Empire, in Kishinev, in Ukraine and Poland, in Odessa, Ukraine, these people were being hunted everywhere they went. They're still hated today. They're still hated today. Now, let's go back. After the Ottoman Empire, 1917, there was a war. By this time, many Jews, because of Rothschild's money, had bought land legally in so-called Palestine. Okay? After the Ottoman Empire, 1917, there was World War I. The Allied powers, Britain, France, Russia, Japan, all come together to fight Germany and the Ottoman Empire. And guess who lost? The Muslims, the Arabs. The Ottoman Empire lost the war. The Allied powers defeated them the way the Ottomans had defeated the ones before them. And now, on December the 9th, General Allenby of Great Britain, who was one of the Allied powers, walked into Jerusalem. He would not even ride his horse. At first, he came through the gates, walking out of reverence for the Holy Land. When he walked in, the Ottoman Empire was defeated. They were over. On October the 30th, 1918, there was the Armistice of Mudros, which ended all Ottoman fighting, and the Turkish people withdrew from the Holy Land. Now, what you need to understand, my friend, no matter what they lie and tell you, nobody took anything. There was war, and then right after the war, there was a conference called the San Remo Conference in 1920. Who was at that conference? All of the Allied powers was at that conference. All of them. Great Britain, America, Japan, Russia, and said, okay, we've defeated the Ottoman Empire. We've defeated Germany. Now, what do we do with all this land? They agreed that they would govern these places through what's called mandates, and that each allied power would be given a mandate to govern that land, to protect its people until such a time that they could govern themselves. And every world power signed off on this at the Remo Conference in 1920 legally. The greatest powers in the world legally signed that the Holy Land, Palestine, would go to Great Britain. On that day, the land of so-called Israel, which is really the land of Judah, Provincia Judea, was handed to the real Israel of God. Great Britain and America, Ephraim and Manasseh, is who God took this land right on time. God did not give the land to the Jewish people. He gave it to end-time Israel, Great Britain and America. These are the two allied powers that was given that land to govern. And shortly thereafter, the League of Nations met in 1922. And what did they do? They ratified what was agreed to at the San Remo Conference, making it legal in what was then the United Nations, the League of Nations. They signed it. Nobody stole anything. And then 1 year later, 1923, there was a treaty signed by who? Turkey, the Ottoman Empire. And in that treaty, in that piece of paper, the Ottoman Empire agreed to rescind their sovereignty and their control to all land south of the Turkish border. They gave up Jerusalem. They surrendered it legally in the Treaty of Lausanne, where they literally signed away their land and told Great Britain, legally, it's yours, the same way it became ours by conquest. For 20 long years, 25 long years, for 25 long years, Great Britain had her soldiers in the streets, keeping order, and they operated that land under British control for 25 long years. 1948, Great Britain, the land belonged to them and America. The mandate was given to Great Britain, but it belonged to all the Allied forces. And it was decided by the rightful owners of that land who it would be given to. And who did Israel, Great Britain, and America decide to give it to? Their brother, Judah. They called the Jewish people home and gave them that nobody stole anything. Nobody colonized anything, no more than the Ottomans colonized it, no more than Rome colonized it. We gave our Jewish brethren their land back. I do wish they would have named it the state of Judah. It would make it so much easier for those of us that know who Israel is. But nevertheless, they named it wrong. They put a star on there that's not a biblical symbol. There's many things that the world doesn't understand. And finally, I want to get to the last graphic here tonight and help you to understand. And then I'm going to answer some questions here. Before I do it, I want to show you a scripture from the Word of Yahweh. Ezekiel 36, 24, 27. For I will take you from among the nations. I will gather you out of all countries and bring you into your land. Now, this is an end time prophecy. And then I will sprinkle you clean with water. And then I will give you a new heart. And then I will put my spirit within you. When people talk about the Jewish people over there today and say, they're not even followers of Christ, go back and read Ezekiel. Everything would happen in segments. First, I will bring you back. And then I will wash you clean. Not when I bring you back, after. Ezekiel tells us there will be a physical gathering first. And then the Bible tells us when Yeshua returns, their Messiah, that they reject to this very day, will wash them clean. The Apostle Paul warned you Gentiles. He warned you. He said, don't boast against my people, because you have been grafted into them. But their fall, he said, you see how great their fall was? Imagine how great their rise is going to be. You were grafted into them. They're not grafted into you. Oh, brothers and sisters, we're living in an age where this spirit is rising every day, because the coming of the Lord is that soon. This hatred, this anger is nothing but demonic. And I hope tonight that I have helped you to see the truth that Israel has never been guilty of what they have accused her of. She was given that land legally by her brother Israel, Ephraim, and Manasseh. Amen. All right, I'll take a few questions tonight. Let's see. Proud birther, you're exactly right, sir. The Gentiles are the lost sheep of Israel. Absolutely. And what's so sad, they don't realize that. And they're sitting there hating their Jewish brethren because they say they're not the real Israel. I agree with them. The Jewish people are not the real Israel. They're the real Judah. The real Israel separated from Judah. And because the church don't understand that, they don't understand why the Jewish people are not serving the Lord today. They've been blinded. They're still blinded until all the lost tribes come back, which is what's happening at this very moment. Thank you, Gay Osborne Barnhart. By the way, everyone, I'm going to go back and edit this and take out that part where we spent 10 minutes trying to fix technical problems. So as soon as you see I'll put in the title, edited version, and I'll upload it to Facebook, YouTube, share that one. Thank you, Mona Brewer. I pray that every one of you have been blessed tonight. I truly felt led of the Spirit of the Lord to talk about this tonight, because my heart just breaks when I see people just continuing. The next time somebody tells you that Israel stole the land, I just want you to ask them one question. From whom? Just ask them that. From whom? Because we've got the receipts. We've got the history. We've got the receipts. So the next time they try that, look, just ask them from whom. Let's see. Thank you, Sister Brody. Amen, Patricia Mitchell. You're exactly right. Jamie Martin, you're very welcome tonight. Thank you for enduring this hour with me.